Shalom Zhenya, Erev Tov. I'm sure you understood whatever I said to the public in Hebrew. I'm sure, every word. And you can guess what is my first question to you. I'm sure you can guess. How do you feel about competitions? Have you participated in a competition?
No, I haven't, with one small exception, about which I'll be very happy to tell. I've never participated in any real major, let alone international competitions, but there was one incident in my early school years when I was in third grade. At the end of the school year, the conductor of our school orchestra, his name was Boris Kaprov, said to my piano teacher, her name was Anna Kantor, in October we're going to have a small competition for the best performance of the first movement of Bach's D minor concerto.
I see. Okay.
A few boys and girls will take part, and the winner will play it with our orchestra at the Grand Hall of the Gnessin Institute. So why doesn't Zhenya learn it and take part in the competition? So my teacher made me learn the entire concerto the following summer, but then she forgot about the competition. So when I played the concerto for her at the beginning of the following school year, she said, that's fine, let's put it aside and concentrate on other things. However, a few weeks later, Mr. Kaprov approached my teacher and said, why isn't Zhenya coming to the rehearsals? All the other boys and girls are already rehearsing with our orchestra. The conversation took place on a Saturday, and the competition was to take place the following Wednesday. So Miss Kantor phoned my mother, explained to her the situation, and told her that I should quickly prepare the first movement of Bach's D minor concerto again. So I prepared it by Monday, and on Wednesday I came to school earlier in order to play with the orchestra at least once before the competition. That was the first time I played with orchestra. I had no idea how to do that. I was not listening to the orchestra at all, not even looking at them.
Who is listening to the orchestra? Nobody is listening to the orchestra anyway.
So in any case, it was a disaster, and during the rehearsal, the director of our school entered the auditorium, listened for a few seconds, and said to Mr. Kaprov, well, he's too young. But Mr. Kaprov was a big fan of mine. He believed in me and said, well, it's only a school competition, let him play. So after the rehearsal, as everybody started drawing lots, I took out number 1, and my teacher, Ms. Kantor, realized that that was not good, because before playing, it would be useful for me to listen to the other participants. So she asked the girl who got the last number to exchange the numbers with me, and she was only too happy to do so because she was much older than I, and she was only happy to play first and go to the other lessons. So the competition started. my teacher and I were sitting next to each other, and as the other children were playing, my teacher was telling me what I should pay attention to, what was not good in the other children's playing. So I played last and won.
And this was the first...
And that was the first and only competition in which
first and last
I have
competition.
taken part in my life.
So, congratulations.
Thank you.
And you played the concerto with orchestra.
Yes,
And
with
you
our
were-
school orchestra.
Yeah, and you were listening to the orchestra the second time.
Oh yes, definitely.
Okay.
And looking at the conductor, and a few weeks later, we even recorded it on the radio.
Yeah, and
I still have a copy of that recording at home. I think, well, for a 10-year-old child, it was not bad.
And as we say, that was only Bach.
As opposed to
Only Bach. Yeah. Yes. And now, of course, obviously, the other question, the second half of my question, how do you feel about competitions in general?
when I was in my teens, I loved listening to the Tchaikovsky competition in Moscow. That was a very big event for all Moscow music lovers. I grew up in Moscow, lived there for the first 20 years of my life. Since then, I have never listened to any other competitions. So I cannot say that I have any general attitude towards competitions as such. On many occasions, I have been asked to be a jury member of some competitions, the Chopin competition in Warsaw, for example. I always refused for a very simple reason. I'm not comparing myself to anyone, but as we all know, Sergei Prokofiev was not only a great composer, but also a very accomplished pianist. And once someone suggested to him to perform a solo recital of his own works. And Prokofiev replied, but that would cost a half of a sonata. So I, again, without comparing myself to anyone, I believe that any music competition could do very well without my participation in it as a jury member, and I better spend my time learning new repertoire.
But I'd like you to promise not only me, but to promise all of us that if one day you change your opinion and you agree to be on the jury, Rubinstein competition will be the first one.
Thank you.
Shall we shake hands for that? Okay. Sorry.
As a Russian Minister of Foreign Affairs suggested to Prime Minister Netanyahu once, say that you are willing to return the Golan Heights to Syria with 1,000 ifs.
Okay. So we shall accept all the ifs that you provide us, but on one condition, that you are coming as a jury member. Is it a deal? You come with all the ifs.
If I ever change my mind,
Okay.
as you said.
Thank you. If you change your mind. That is an additional 1,001 ifs.
That's the only if
Okay.
I have.
Jenya, I'd like to ask you a very sincere question, which for me is very enigmatic. We all watched you online playing the Chopin concerto, the Chopin concerti actually, at the age of 11 or 12. How old were you? 12.
Well, I made my debut with both Chopin concerti when I was 12. Unfortunately, no TV recording was made of that performance. So what you have seen online was made 1 year later.
So you were 12 or 13?
13.
13.
When I played Chopin's first and Prokofiev's third.
Yeah. Then, of course, we know today so many young pianists are so skillful, fantastic keyboardists, and they play Brahms' second or Prokofiev's second at the age of 12, 10, just name it. But when you perform the Chopin concerto at the age of 13, what we can watch on YouTube is not that. It's emotionally mature child. How is it possible that that child is so emotionally mature? Can you describe to us your background, what books you read, what were the influences, how it made you so mature emotionally?
First of all, there is a very good and well-known Russian poet of Jewish origin by the name of Felix Krivin. By the way, the famous conductor Emanuel Krivin is his distant relative. In one of his short poems, a king, a gangster, a poor man are all saying that times are not good now, before people were living better.
Yeah.
And Krivin makes the following conclusion. The poor time, which is being blamed by everybody, we think at times that we reflect the time, but in reality, the time reflects us. Why I'm referring to that poem? Because your words reminded me of Anton Rubinstein's reply or comment regarding the playing of some young pianist who was very accomplished from the technical point of view. Anton Rubinstein replied, everybody plays piano well nowadays.
Yeah.
In fact, in every profession, there is lots of mediocre people and much fewer good specialists, so to speak. As far as my playing as a child is concerned, I don't think that had anything to do with the books I read. I think that only came from nature.
Yeah.
I loved the music I was playing, and music in general. I had a feeling for it. So I felt the depth that was in the music and was expressing it.
Yeah, you were quoting a Jewish poet. No wonder. Jewishness is so strong in your soul, in your heart, in your Shirokaya Dusha, in your Russian heart. Today, just a few hours ago, we were watching together, we were looking together to Mauricio Gottlieb, this Yom Kippur. What were your emotions watching this incredible picture?
I was very happy to finally see it live. I had seen it before in albums of Jewish art, and I think in some books on Judaism, but never live. I think it's a wonderful painting.
You are going to do now at the Verbier Festival a concert de la vie juive, from the Jewish life, מהחיים היהודיים. How that came, this idea? Was it your idea? What are you going to play there?
I'm going to play some short pieces by Jewish composers from Russia who lived in the first half of the 20th century, Moshe Milner and Alexander Crane. How that idea came about? Well, a few months ago, I gave a special concert in Washington, D.C., in the United States. At the Kennedy Center. The concert was a part of the so-called Pro-Hebraica series organized by the famous politologists Charles Krauthammer and his lovely wife Robin, an Australian-born convert into Judaism. Those are series of Jewish classical music. They offered me to give a concert in their series, sent me many scores of Jewish music, from which I selected what I thought was best and most interesting. However, unfortunately, there was not enough solo piano repertoire for an entire evening, so we decided that I combine playing Jewish music and reciting Yiddish poetry, which was something I had done in public for smaller audiences before on various occasions. And I must say, the evening was a real success. Since then, I have been asked to do the same or a similar program again at Carnegie Hall in New York, in Chicago, in Miami, in Paris, even in Japan. So for my performance in Verbier this coming July, I suggested to Martin Engstrom,
who is a jury member sitting there.
Present here.
Yeah, hi Martin.
Hi Martin. To play at least some of those pieces in Verbier.
Okay. They asked me to give some translation, so I just let you finish what you have to say, and I'll give a brief translation into Hebrew.
I think it will be easier for you if you translate now.
Okay.
If you don't have to translate two long chunks of...
אוקיי, אני מבקש באמת סליחה שלא תרגמנו לעברית, ההנחה שהכל מבינים אנגלית היא לא חייבת להיות קיימת. אני לא רציתי להפריע לאורח שלנו במהלך דיבורו, כפי שאמרתי הוא לא מרבה להתראיין, ואם הוא כבר פעם מתראיין באמת בהזדמנות נדירה כזאת, אז לא רציתי לבזבז את זמנו. כל שכן שאנחנו חייבים עוד מעט לסיים כדי לפנות את הפסנתר לכיוון. אנחנו יכולים להישאר כאן כל הלילה, אבל המכוון צריך לכוון את הפסנתר לקראת התחרות הבאה. I just mentioned that the tuner need the time to tune, so we are really running out of time, but אני אנסה לתרגם. הוא סיפר על הקשר שלו עם מלחינים יהודיים רוסיים, הוא סיפר על תחושת היהדות שלו שצפינו ביחד, התבוננו ביחד בתמונה של מאוריציו גוטליב כאן, הוא סיפר על ילדותו כילד פלא שהוא השתתף בתחרות של בית הספר שהמורה שלו דרבנה אותו להשתתף בה, שהיא שכחה מהתחרות ואז מיום למחר הוא ניגן בתחרות. אני שאלתי אותו אם הוא השתתף מעודו בתחרות בינלאומית, זה ידוע שיבגני קיסין לא השתתף בתחרויות בינלאומיות, אז להפתעתנו הרבה הוא סיפר שהוא כן השתתף בתחרות אחת, אבל היא לא הייתה תחרות בינלאומית אלא תחרות קטנה של בית ספר, ומאז הוא לא יסף להשתתף בתחרויות. שאלתי אותו מה דעתו על תחרויות בדרך כלל, ואז הוא אמר שכשהוא היה נער בגיל העשרה, הוא הרבה להקשיב לתחרות שייקובסקי, שהיא חלק מהתרבות הרוסית של המוזיקאים, והוא נהנה מאוד להקשיב לתחרות שייקובסקי, ומאז הוא לא מקשיב יותר לתחרויות. הוא סיפר גם שהזמינו אותו להיות שופט בתחרות שופן בוורשה, והוא סירב, כי הוא אמר שבאותו זמן אולי הוא יכול ללמוד עוד קצת רפרטואר נוסף, ואז סחטתי ממנו הבטחה שאם ביום מן הימים, אם הוא ישנה את דעתו לגבי תחרויות, תחרות רובינשטיין תהיה התחרות הראשונה בעולם שהוא ישפוט בה, והוא אמר אם, שיש 1000 אימים שאם הוא יתגבר עליהם אז הוא יבוא, אז אמרתי לו טוב, אז אם, אז בסדר, אז אם הזה, אז הוא אמר, אז האם הזה, וקצת עשינו צחוקים עם האימים, ועכשיו הגענו עד הלום. I'm sorry, I made it, you know, Hebrew is very concise, העורך שלנו יודע עברית. הוא יודע עברית. Yeah, he just pretends he doesn't understand, but he understands all. And he also speaks...
Far from all, but some words.
He speaks Yiddish very, very well, amazingly well. But you were in the middle of...
I could give an interview in Yiddish, but I'm afraid not everyone in this auditorium understands it. So may I just add one thing?
Yeah, please.
Since we are talking on the Jewish subjects. Not long ago, I had a conversation with one friend of mine who, by ethnic origin, belongs to a very small ethnic group. There are only 10,000 of them. They are old. Even Pythagoras mentions them in his book. Some of them fought, if I'm not mistaken, for Alexander the Great. And we spoke about a common friend of ours who is Jewish. We are all originally from Russia, and my friend said to me about our mutual friend. He is my wonderful man, my closest friend. A bit obsessed with Israel, but so are you. And we spoke recently, and he said, yes, and why am I like this? I don't know. And my friend, who is not Jewish, is saying, reply to him, but it's clear why you are Jewish. And then I mentioned my conversation with the wife of our friend in common, who was also Jewish, and who said to me something to the effect of, yes, I care about Israel because I believe that it's being treated unfairly by many people, but in reality I don't care about Jewish things as such, and I do not care whether the Jewish people would continue to exist as a nation or not. And when I quoted that, my above-mentioned friend, who was not Jewish, said to me a very strange point of view. The existence of any nation is necessary, let alone the Jewish people with such a rich history and culture. So, if I had an opportunity to be born again, I would not like to be born anyone but a Jew, but I am sure that all the other people Italians, English, Arabs, Armenians, you name it, feel the same way, and they all should feel the same way. I believe that every human being is a treasure, and every nation is a treasure. All national cultures are a treasure. If I can make some good Jewish music known to larger audiences, I'm very happy to do this, and I'm very happy to see people's positive reaction to it. I have always loved folk music of different peoples. After all, jazz is also folklore.
Your mom, who is here with us in the hall, and Lady Annabel Weidenfeld, mentioned that as a kid you wanted to go and visit Birobidzhan. That's a fantastic story. Why Birobidzhan?
As a kid living behind the Iron Curtain in the most anti-Israel state in the world, I did not know anything about Israel, so it was the so-called Jewish autonomous region in the Soviet Union that I was associating with the Jewish people. That's why.
And right now...
That was before I learned about Israel's existence.
And right now you are holding an Israeli passport. That's
Yes.
amazing. We are very proud of it and happy and grateful to you that...
I'm very happy to, and it just feels natural for me.
And my question is, you were how old, 6 or 7, when you asked about Birobidzhan, and then and then affinity to Israel, with Jewish music, playing it in Verbier, playing it everywhere, quoting Jewish poets, watching, looking at Maurizio Gottlieb, all this Jewish heart. Can you explain where and how was it born? At what age?
That I don't know. Maybe I would have to go to some psychoanalyst to discover that. But,
this is not a bad idea for every Jewish person, but...
we are all different. Each one of us has his or her own story. As I said a few minutes ago, each human being is a treasure. And as a Yiddish proverb says, wenn ich will sein wie jener, wer wird sein wie ich? If I'm like someone else, who will be like me?
An inevitable question, another question to you. Is it good to be a Wunderkind?
I don't know. When I was a child, I couldn't care less. When I was a child, I just loved music and loved playing, and that's all. What other people were labeling me, I really didn't care. Besides, many people back then used to say that Wunderkind was not the right word for me, for the reason you mentioned a few minutes earlier. Because Wunderkind, so-called Wunderkinder, were impressive mainly with their technical abilities.
כן אפשר יהיה אני רק רוצה לגמור את השאלות שלי, ואז אפשר יהיה מהקהל. And how about, אפשר לבקש גם שקט, נכון? How about playing football with friends of your age as a child?
Yes.
Did you?
Oh, sure I did. In my school, the Gnesian school, in the courtyard of the school, everybody was playing football. Well, not the girls, of course, but all the boys were.
Okay.
The windows of our school were broken many times.
This kind lady asked if we can open the floor for questions from the public, and I think because time is running very short, we shall do it.
Maybe
but knowing them, I can promise you they are going to ask you to play something, so be careful.
Well, to play something, I'm afraid I'm not prepared, and I don't even know the piano. But to answer questions, please, everybody is most welcome. I haven't got much time, unfortunately, but I'll be here.
מי שרוצה לשאול שאלה, שיבוא ושישאל למיקרופון. Okay.
What?
No.
No?
No questions.
No questions? All right. Any more questions from you?
No, you know, I've prepared a shopping list, and since you read Ivro very well, you can read my shopping list of questions. You can choose any. For instance, about the Russian tradition of playing Mozart.
What about it?
I don't
I
know.
don't know of it, nor do I.
Yeah, I'm asking.
I know Mozart's performances by some Russian musicians, pianists, and not only, but I've never heard of such a tradition.
How about political involvement here? Political involvement.
I personally like Samuel Feinberg's recordings of Mozart, which are very untraditional, but I like them. I think he was a great musician, and when I listen to his recordings of Mozart, they give me the feeling of freshness.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, madam, please.
On behalf of the public, the Israeli public and the world public, I want to thank you for being Mr. Kissin and such a great pianist, and welcome to Israel. Thank you very much for who you are.
That's very kind of you.
That, I must say, was the most beautiful question. Okay, in that case, I think we should all go for supper, let the tuner do his job, and thank from the bottom of the heart to Jenya'rago.